Siomra
Michael and Benjamin's Journal, October 21st, 2019. Hollywood pop culture media, full of liberals, fornicators, and possible homosexuals. Ben, the only opinion I can trust. Must speak to Ben. I've done a bit.
That's it.
I've done a little bit, Ben, and I was. You see,
I expect that.
I was Rorschach. You see,
that was very good, very good.
Twist
that will all become apparent and justified in about
look. Let's
10 to 15 minutes.
Shall we just very quickly point out those aren't my opinions?
Make it not in fact
it's a reference.
A right-wing meme lord.
Yes. Do you want to stick in the theme music, Ben, and then we'll just get down to it?
Theme music for the podcast. We don't actually have any theme music.
Now, the real question, Ben, is did I put in the old theme music or the new theme music?
Oh, such suspense. I'll have to wait till Monday to find out.
Only the listeners will ever know. Benjamin.
Because I don't listen to our podcast.
You don't listen, do you, Ben? The only way you're going to know is if someone emails you going, what the hell was that new theme music? That was awful. Benjamin.
Yes.
Look, listen, it's a bit of a sparse news for a week. No? It's a bit of a sparse week for news.
No, you nailed it. It's fine. Don't worry about it. There's a bit of a drought, a bit of a news drought.
Yeah.
So it's not great.
I think you might be a bit far from your mic.
Am I a bit far from my mic?
Yeah, use your face to push your pop filter in a bit.
Ooh.
There you go. That'll do it.
Give it now a scratchy scratch there.
It's a bit of a sparse week for news.
Not a lot going on.
What bloody news is there, though?
Well, you and I, Michael, are great fans of Samurai Jack.
Yeah.
And creator of Samurai Jack, Gennady Tartakovsky, has a new series coming out on Sci-Fi Channel.
What's it called?
It's called bloody Primal, Michael. Like
bloody
yourself.
Primal.
Bit like yourself. No,
bloody
just Primal.
Right.
Just Primal. Bit like yourself.
Oh, thanks.
Amazon Primal. So we're going with that. And it looks like he's taking everything that people love about his kind of style,
Samurai
artwork,
Jack.
show, Samurai Jack, and pushing it to its nth degree. I watched a quick interview with him where he walked us through kind of the philosophy of the show and the show Bible, I suppose. And there's not going to be a lot of talking, Michael. It's going to be basically those long, beautiful scenes from Samurai Jack where he trekked through the wilderness and occasionally come across some robots.
Yeah.
And have to take them on in utter silence.
Yeah.
And he's pushing that to an nth degree with Primal. The main character is called, the main humanoid character is called Spear, and the main dinosaur character is called Fang. And he's described it as a buddy cop movie in a really strange savage land.
About not the Savage Land TM at Marvel Comics.
We'll have less of that.
No, we won't see Khazar.
We won't see that.
Or Shanna the She-Devil.
I think it's roughly that kind of world. Conan meets Shanna the She-Devil.
Meets the Savage Land.
Meets the Savage Land, but we can't say that.
There's a man on a dinosaur.
That's against the rules. But there's some blood, Michael, which sets it apart from his previous work, although season 5 of Samurai Jack finally went bloody.
Did it?
Yes. It looks like maybe Gennady got a taste of mature content from his time with Adult Swim, and he's now just going to do that in all of his things.
He won't be the first person to ever acquire a bit of a taste for mature, you know what I'm saying?
I think that's a sly dig at me, Michael.
But, it wasn't that sly. I gave you a
little I'm not going to shy away from that, Michael. I'm an equal opportunist. If you or anyone you know would like to apply,
no, please don't. Please, absolutely 100% don't. Please do not email me to contact Ben.
It looks like one of the more interesting things that's going to happen with Primal is the art style has shifted significantly. There's a very scratchy texture to the line movement, a much more organic feel to it, which would set itself apart from the kind of flash neatness, the minimalist shape style of Samurai Jack. So I'm looking forward to it, Michael.
It'll be funny because I doubt it's hand drawn, so it'll be an effort to recreate a scratchy penness.
Almost, yes.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Not that it won't have, I'd say a lot of the sketch work is just going to be used as an overlay and stuff like that. I mean, Disney kind of pioneered this new style of scratch over digital with their wonderful short in 2012, Paperman. So
Never heard of it.
I'd say there's probably a lot of techniques out there now that allow people to build their block in digital form and then overlay with that lovely scratchy texture. That people
Ben, you're throwing a lot of phrases at me that I don't know.
That's fine. People who listen know. They know.
Will they?
They know.
A lot of people who listen to this, Ben, say, "Look, I enjoy the energy and the content, but I have no idea what you're talking about."
Ben.
Yeah, that is it. Hate Ben. Get rid of him. Bring back Rachel, Shane, literally anybody.
Literally anybody.
Get rid of Ben.
So yeah, I'm just going to bury that really bad feeling now. I'm just going to push it down.
Push it down.
And get rid of it. But I am looking forward to seeing it. I think if anyone can do a series where dialogue is basically on the back burner for the entire thing, it's Gennady Tartakovsky.
Mm-hmm.
I think the man has an affinity and a love affair with animation. And I think he's going to push it to a whole new level.
Speaking, Ben, of taking bad emotions and pushing them down and burying them, and that never turning out badly.
Yeah, no,
the Joker's doing quite well.
That is one of my favourite segues that you've ever done on the podcast.
It's a solid segue.
Yeah, it was a solid segue.
It's doing quite well, Ben. It is this weekend. It is going to pass Justice League at the box office.
Shock.
Isn't that good?
Yeah, it is actually quite good.
Despite Jared Leto trying to sabotage it.
Why? What's he been doing?
Apparently, he spent the whole time in pre-production. Now, this is probably just Hollywood jibba jabba, Ben. But he spent a lot of the time trying to get them to not make it.
Jared Leto just seems like an awful dickbag, doesn't he?
Yeah. I know that was the tone of voice when you're going to say something else, but
he just seems like a bit of a prick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bloody Jared. Look,
I've nothing to say to defend him.
there was a report this week that he's officially out of the DC universe. He's officially been ousted.
He's not going to be in the Suicide Squad?
Dose.
No, it's just called the Suicide Squad.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a reboot. Soft reboot?
Soft reboot.
Soft reboot.
Yeah.
I suppose those hard reboots.
Yeah, I think.
That you feel ashamed about after you watch them.
Exactly. I don't know if it's called The Suicide Squad or Suicide Squad. Whichever the other one wasn't called, it's that one.
Look, as long as it doesn't have Jared Leto as a fucking Joker screaming about how, there's a full movie's worth of footage, it's amazing. Probably isn't, Jared.
Probably isn't.
Probably
Might be,
isn't.
Who are we to say?
Who are we to say?
We don't know.
All I know is I want the bloody Schneider cut.
To release the Schneider Cut? No, you don't.
No, I don't.
I watched the Snyder Cut of another film today, Ben.
Yeah, and we'll get to that.
Bloody hell. You definitely don't want the Snyder Cut of anything.
Too fucking long.
It'll be 3.5 hours.
Too long.
Bloody Schneider.
Bloody Schneider.
Benjamin, our most popular character from last week was Wilhelm Schmidt.
Wilhelm Schmidt was a surprise hit.
People are asking for him to come back.
Yeah.
We might try and work him in.
Yeah, so look.
I can't think of any opportunities to work him in. On a totally unrelated note, Ben, this weekend, guess who went to see Gemini Man?
Wilhelm Schmidt?
No.
No.
My friend Gemini.
Your friend Gemini?
No, not you.
Oh, okay.
You didn't go.
I didn't go.
You were in the pub.
I was dosed with coward's blood.
Coward's blood.
Sprayed with coward's blood.
Another dose of coward's blood for Ben Coward's Blood Collop.
I think it was more alcohol poisoning and blood poisoning. But
it was my friend Gemini and also Shane. But Shane being involved ruins the joke of Gemini. Do you get it?
Because Michael, currently Will Smith has a movie out called Gemini Man.
And who went to see it? My friend Gemini.
And there is a passing resemblance between that auditory phrase
Gemini
and the movie that you went to see.
If we were Jamaican, I would say, hey Ben, guess who went to see Gemini Man?
And I would say, who man?
And I would say, my friend Gemini Man.
Yeah, see, you nailed it. And we did it without being completely racist. Nailed it.
Do you see the joke though?
I see what you did there.
You see it?
I see what you did there.
It's fine.
Anyway,
it's alright.
Gemini. How was Gemini Man?
It's fine. At times, Ben, visually spectacular.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think people aren't going to see it because it's
a Will Smith vanity project.
Part of the Will Smith, the opposite of the Will Smith renaissance.
The Will Smith, I'll just keep going till they stop paying.
Oh, hell no.
Oh, hell no.
He does say that a couple of times. But it is visually spectacular. Some of the best action chase scenes I've ever seen. Some slightly chunky CGI.
It'll happen.
Did you hear about the technology involved?
Quite a bit, from what I understood.
It's not a de-aging.
Oh.
Young Will Smith is an entirely digital character.
Oh.
He's like Jar Jar Binks. He was created with motion capture, not de-aging.
Oh, do we want that?
It looks fine because most of the film's dark.
But
at the end they're in daylight and it looks a bit...
Boy, oh boy, does it get janky.
Shunky and wonky.
Yeah.
But, yeah, look, the action is pretty good. The cinematography is spectacular. The plot is by the numbers. The characters are essentially non-existent.
Well, it's Will Smith.
But, I mean, the worst thing about it is the relationship between young Will Smith and old Will Smith is boring.
Oh, no.
That's the worst thing.
That's the worst
thing. They're both
thing.
boring. Old Will Smith, boring. Young Will Smith,
boring.
Also boring.
Well, Michael, I pitched a possible fix for you at the start of the week. I said I would have paid good money to see a Fresh Prince style younger Will Smith.
If the young Will
As
Smith,
as young Will from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is like, I won't kill people, man. And then various things like that. I would really have enjoyed that version. Also, possibly, as you said, Michael, you gave a wonderful quick cameo idea for Carlton in a tank.
Well, Ben, we'll go mildly into spoilers.
Spoilers.
The best characters in it are Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Benedict Wong.
Oh, Benedict Wong is great.
And he's famous for playing Wong.
In which was really a
Marvel
sidestep for him. It went really well.
Yeah.
Really well for him.
Yeah.
I remember Benedict Wong more than ever because of the IT episode where Moss becomes a street countdown champion.
Very good episode.
Great episode of Countdown.
That has a lot of future Marvel stars in it. That episode also has Gemma Chan.
Yeah, Gemma Chan's in there as the woman who loves Moss.
Yeah. Lots of future Marvel stars in that episode of the IT Crowd.
I'm not saying Kevin Feige watches British comedies, but Kevin Feige might watch British comedies.
He might do. It's amazing Richard Ayoade hasn't shown up in a...
I can't wait. He's going to turn up eventually. He'd be a great Amadeus Cho if Amadeus Cho wasn't an Asian character.
If Amadeus Cho wasn't a...
He'd be a great nerd Hulk,
a 12-year-old Korean.
Yeah, I think Richard Ayoade could probably play a 12-year-old in some form. He's got the vocal range.
I'd like to see Richard Ayoade playing a 12-year-old Korean. I think that would be...
I don't know who Chris O'Dowd would be in the Marvel Universe.
Chris O'Dowd already is in the Marvel Universe.
Is he one of the Starfleet or something like that?
No, Chris O'Dowd is Jane Foster's date in Thor 2.
Oh, shit.
If you remember.
I think we've collectively blocked out.
Yeah. Gemma Chan's in the Marvel Universe twice.
Yeah, because she's been rebooted to be in the Immortals.
Yeah, she's in Captain Marvel and the Immortals the following year. Not the Immortals, the Eternals. Weird.
Sure, fuck it.
That's bloody Gemma Chan for you. Popping up everywhere.
Gemma Chan.
Richard Ayoade.
Gemma Chan.
What are we talking about this?
Yeah, I don't know. Good question.
Gemini Man?
We were looking at a Gemini Man fix. We wanted a young Will Smith. We got talking about the IT Crowd because Benedict Wong came up somewhere.
If Gemma Chan's two characters met each other in the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
would it implode?
You could call it Gemini Chan. That'd be pretty funny.
So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a sparse week for news.
It has. We've had to ramble for 12 and a half minutes.
We didn't do too badly.
Yeah, it was just mostly nonsense.
I didn't think we'd get this far.
Benjamin.
Go on.
The big popular culture news this week, and it's why I did a slightly racist lead-in, I hope people understood that was part of the fiction, is that the new TV series, is it HBO?
HBO.
Yes.
Damien
Lindelof, the writer, producer.
Smokey Bears.
Who's Smokey Bears?
Smokey Bears.
What's that?
It's Damien Lindelof's favourite screenwriting technique. Big clouds of smoke and polar bears.
Oh, I get you. You're going to have to explain that, Ben.
He wrote Lost, and Lost is famous for weird twists that don't make any sense, really, and don't really add to a plot. And two of the twists are there's a big cloud of smoke chasing people around, there's a bloody bear.
Why is there a bear?
Never explained.
What's wrong with your voice?
I don't know.
You're becoming Rorschach. I always saw you.
Bear, smoke, no logic.
I always saw you more as a night owl.
I am a bit of a night owl. Bloody cook.
Let's be careful, because Ben, they say about podcasting, every episode is someone's first episode, so we don't want to attract the wrong crowd with this episode.
We're going to see a spike in viewership from bloody Alabama.
Yeah, it's weird.
Steve Bannon's going to wonder if we want to run for president.
I don't know who Steve Bannon is.
You do know who Steve Bannon is.
I genuinely don't. It's like this week you've been replaced by someone who has references that I don't understand. What's going on?
Very entertaining.
Who's Steve Bannon?
Steve Bannon is the guy that made Donald Trump president.
No, that was Vladimir Putin.
Well, he worked with Steve Bannon.
Did he?
Yeah, Steve Bannon is the guy that runs Breitbart News. He owned Breitbart News.
Oh.
And he's the guy that Breitbart News kind of ousted because he was too crazy.
Oh, really?
I'll give you a rough idea who Steve Bannon is.
He'd be a Rorschach supporter.
To use a reference that many people on this podcast might enjoy, he is to the King of Rohan what Wormwood was. So he's the Wormwood to the US presidential election in 2016. He's the guy that whispers vile nothings into people's ears and turns them to evil.
Wormtongue.
Wormwood, worm tongue. It's all the same. And on that note, Michael, what are we talking about this week?
Watchmen. It's coming out.
Yeah, on HBO.
Is it HBO?
It's HBO.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely HBO. Damien Lindelof.
Damien Lindelof,
who we can't decide if he's great or not, because he also wrote one of this podcast's favourite series, which is The Leftovers, which is bloody great.
But also based on a novel.
Also based on a novel.
No, not also based on a novel.
Pushed by Sapphire.
What?
No, never mind. You're just not on it today. Where are all your references from, like,
I don't know what you're talking
mid-2000s?
about. That's when I was 30, Ben. I don't care about that.
Okay, fair enough.
I wasn't 30.
Fair enough. I don't think you were 30 in the
I wasn't.
mid-2000s. I think you were
wasn't.
much younger than that.
I was
Mike.
younger than that. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Weird that you don't have so many
What's Push by
references.
Sapphire?
It's a terrible movie and novel.
Never heard of it. Damien Lindelof?
I think it's Damon Lindelof.
He wrote a lot of Lost, which wasn't based on a novel, but he wrote a lot of The Leftovers, which was based on a novel. And what I'm saying is that's probably why it was good.
Damon Lindelof.
Damien Lindelof.
Yeah, okay, well, that's what we're going to do because it's a podcast tradition.
So yeah, maybe the fact that it's based on a novel gave it a bit of structure, which is what he's often lacking.
He does need structure.
He pants it.
He is structure dependent. It's his whole bag.
So anyway,
Go on.
he's doing a TV show, Ben, called Watchmen.
Watchmen.
The Watchmen, or Who Watches the Watchmen? We'll be watching it anyway. That's for sure.
We'll have to because we do a pop culture podcast.
You would think that, but we've staunchly avoided both Batwoman and Pennyworth.
I think those are two staunchly good choices. That's not how you use staunchly.
That's not
but
staunchly, it doesn't matter. Look, Ben, it is set, the new TV show, it is set now in the current world.
that's now, Michael.
But
That's
it's
2019.
2019, October 21st, 2019.
Good for us.
It is set in the current world, Ben.
Yes.
But if the current world had followed on from the Watchmen of the 80s,
Oh, so it's a continuation.
it's a continuation, Ben, and
See.
I've done a little bit of research for us.
Go on.
It's a continuation of the comic book, not the film.
I mean, that makes sense. That
Now,
reads.
we'll get to why that's important in a moment.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of reasons it's important.
But
anyway.
Ben, why don't you start by bloody telling us what even is Watchmen?
So, Watchmen is divisive, Michael. Before we get any further, I think it's important to take a look at, what it is it's a comic book that premiered in 1986, September 1986, to be perfectly accurate. And it's written by a comic book writer that some people consider
Alan
to be
Moore.
a god, Alan Moore,
At least some sort of
who's
demon.
from Norfolk. And he likes a comic, and it might be real, because
Might
they
be
are.
real. Might be a curse on you.
Or he might just be nuts.
I don't think he's nuts, Ben. I think Alan Moore is a character that Alan Moore has created.
I think that's why he's retiring.
Haven't we talked about this before?
Yeah,
I think we
absolutely.
have.
There's a whole
My
episode on it
theory
somewhere
that,
in the
yeah,
backlog there.
that Alan Moore is not real. Alan Moore is a character created by Alan Moore.
Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, I'm on board with that. That's fine by me. Loves a good rape in a comic, which makes me uncomfortable. He has a poor to middling understanding of how sex works and how
Look,
relationships work.
Ben,
But we'll
let's
get
not
to
talk
that.
about Alan Moore. We're talking about Watchmen.
Anyway, it was by him and Dave Gibbons.
Yeah.
And
From the band... what band?
Gibbons and the Primates.
Can't remember.
Anyway,
Rhythmics. You keep going. I'll find out what
it is now considered to be a watershed moment for comics in general.
the seminal graphic novel.
The seminal graphic. It's a deconstructionist piece of work, Michael. It takes the tropes, the tried and tested tropes, themes, etc. of comic books, and it tears them apart, Michael.
Right.
It tears them apart. We follow a world that is big on vigilantes,
Yeah.
but doesn't have any superpowers, Michael. So you're very much looking at a kind of JSA style America, Justice Society of America, where everyone is out to do good, but we don't necessarily have any major superpowers at play here. And basically what it does is it takes a look at the actual impact that vigilante justice in a wider spectrum would have on society.
Mm-hmm.
There is eventually a crackdown, Michael, on the vigilante justice
Get out of
that
here,
is going in
vigilantes.
America. And the reason that crackdown happens is because the first superpowered man, the first Ubermensch,
Yeah.
comes into existence, known as Dr. Manhattan.
Mm.
And Dr. Manhattan pretty much has control over all forms of matter.
Yeah. And a big blue dangly cock.
A big blue dangly cock, because it's Alan Moore.
Yeah. And he's in the nude.
The artwork is sensational. It's really well rendered, really visually thought out stuff. Sequentially speaking, and how it's drawn and put together, a really beautiful comic. It's very meta. There are lots and lots of side things, news reports, things like that add to it. It
There's
is
a comic within a comic.
There's a comic within a comic. The black Freighter, which is a strange kind of Robinson Crusoe if Robinson Crusoe took place in a gothic hellscape.
Yeah. And had to make a raft full of dead bodies.
There's some grim stuff going on. There's layers within layers. It is considered to be the first great postmodernist comic book. It is the first great postmodernist comic book, Michael. And you told me something before this began. You told me that it became the first ever...
The bloody graphic novel, Ben.
Bloody graphic novel.
The term graphic novel was coined by the literary elites to
deem what this was, because we couldn't call it a comic book, Michael.
It's not a comic
because
book.
Comic books are beneath us. So this is something new.
Imagine it's the 80s, Ben, and I'm a literary man from the New York Times. And I'm like,
you're an awful prick.
Oh, hello. Well, people from New York in the 80s, but who are posh, they spoke like Kelsey Grammer, didn't they?
Yeah, they all speak like Kelsey Grammer.
That was more. You've done Charles Xavier.
I've done well. It's a little bit like that as well.
I've gone a little bit into story in McKellen as well. Now, when I was a young lad, of course, we'd always have the sailors around, and we'd always
just have a little tug.
Companies.
It's just an innocent little tug, really. Oh, the tugs.
Where are we?
Yeah, so they coined the term
graphic novel. Yes, to describe it, they said it's not so much a comic book as a graphic novel.
And then Ian McKellen came in and said, "Tug anyone?"
And then they said, "And those tossed salads and scrambled eggs." They're calling again
because they couldn't say comic, Michael, because that was beneath them. So they come up with a new term,
graphic novel. Then
graphic novel. And to be fair, that's a term that's gotten me a lot of flack over the years, Michael. I wish they'd never invented it.
Yeah, because you're always saying, "I read graphic novels."
I read graphic novels. Don't read comics because I want to get laid, Michael.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Anyway, so yeah, it's good though, isn't it? Ben, tell us a little bit about the origin of it, because I'm sure you know that story.
Yeah, so basically, Alan Moore was putting this idea around for years. He just... I don't actually know the story that you're referring to, so you're going to have to help me out here.
Alan Moore was putting this idea around for years of doing kind of what happens in a world after superheroes.
Oh, okay.
And he proposed a pitch when DC bought Carlton Comics.
I think that was it, yeah.
And they got the rights to a lot of Carlton characters who were, reasonably popular characters. Not huge characters, but the likes of The Question.
Yeah.
The Blue Beetle.
Yeah. Blue Beats.
The Blue Beats. The other guy, Booster Gold.
Booster G.
Is Booster Gold one of them?
Booster G. Yeah, no, he is. Yeah. He's in that whole... They kept them together. Those three characters have worked together continuously through continuities. Booster Gold and Ted Cord,
Captain Atom,
Blue Beetle. Yeah.
And so what Alan Moore did was he proposed a comic book about their world in a kind of 1980s Reagan-esque hellscape. No, not Reagan-esque. What's the other guy?
Nixon-esque
hellscape. That's
not a crook.
That's the fella.
Yeah.
And DC said, well, look, Alan Moore, we like what you've done here with this plot. It's a very interesting story.
Be good.
But we can't really do that with these new characters we've just acquired.
Because we want to put them into main continuity.
Yeah, that's not what we want to do with these characters. So look, you can do that comic, you mad wizard bastard.
Norfolkian bastard.
But... just reimagine the characters ever so slightly.
You wizard prick.
So instead of bloody Blue Beetle, we got the Night Owl.
The Night Owl, who's very Blue Beetle now that you say it. Oh my goodness, I didn't know this at all.
Did you not know that?
This is a fascinating fascinating little thing. Oh my God,
rather than the question is, Jesus Christ, Ben, how did you not know this?
It has literally just clicked for me. I've just gone, oh my God, the whole thing makes sense now.
Yeah, see?
Holy shit, bags.
Doesn't it all make sense? So yeah, that's the kind of origin of where it sprung forth.
I didn't know this at all, Michael.
Yeah, thank you. It was kind of, you could almost look at it as, the famous comic book Ben, Kingdom Come.
Yes.
You could look at it as a Kingdom Come for the Carlton comic book universe.
Totally, they're very similar. Better art in one than other, obviously, but it's apples and pears. They're two different things.
They're very closely related.
Yeah.
Phylogenetically, apples and pears. I don't know if you know that.
No, I didn't, Michael. You keep your recovering biology to yourself.
Apples and oranges might be a better analogy.
Apples and oranges.
Although they are also... apples and pears might be good because they are both from DC. They're both comic books about the end of a superhero. Yeah, no.
Look, apples and uranium cores. Let's do it that way. Unless those are closely related in some form that I didn't know. But, look, I think in a modern context, Michael, it's very divisive as a piece of art. I certainly loved the comic when I originally read it. I begged my dad to take me to the bookshop in the Nut Grove to pick it up before the movie came out.
The Nut Grove.
You
say the Nut Grove. It's not called the Nut Grove.
No, but it's in the podcast tradition, Michael. We'll say before things quite a lot.
Okay, yeah.
Nut Grove Shopping Centre here.
Yeah.
A couple of people listening know exactly what that is. Other people don't. They're like, what the fuck is a Nut Grove?
What's a Nut Grove? It's Dublin's premier shopping centre.
Anyway, there was a comic book shop there, and I went to pick it up because
comic book shop in the Nut Grove?
No, it was a bookshop that had it. And I wanted to see it before I went to see Zack Snyder's film when it came out. I was about 15, 14, I guess.
2009?
No, I was 17. 17. Still, young enough for it to be a formative experience. I hadn't really cut my teeth on comic books all that much. But I wanted to go see this. And then I asked my dad to take me to see the film. And the way I sold my dad on seeing the film was, Bob Dylan's in the soundtrack. And Leonard Cohen's in the soundtrack. And he's like, go on, so. And he took me to see it.
He was.
And he came out and he said, I don't know if I'll go see another one of those with your son. It's a bit long for my dad. But he gave it socks. Look, he gave it socks.
So, Ben, the comic, do people like it?
Well, as I said, Michael, very divisive, but I put that out to our listeners our listeners who engage with us on Instagram. Yeah. And we had two very strong opinions, Michael.
Strong opinions,
but good opinions.
Oh.
Good opinions, Michael.
All right, Trump, calm down.
Great opinions, the best opinions. Okay, if this Dr. Manhattan guy's out there, he's a good guy, best guy, close personal friend. Fucking hate that guy.
Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, he's a tosser.
He's just. I mean, his biggest flaw is he's easily manipulated.
Very easily swayed, Michael. The Joe Rogan of postmodernist superhero comics.
Very good. I would listen to Dr. Manhattan's podcast.
It's all pointless,
Have you
Michael.
guys ever seen a jacked orangutan?
Jamie, pull that up. It doesn't matter. I can already see it.
I can already see it. The number of molecules in a jacked orangutan is the same as a normal orangutan.
But you place so much value in a jacked orangutan. Interesting.
Why is that? Infinity.
Infinity Action Art says, it would have been interesting to have read it when it came out, but I don't think it holds up. I don't think it holds as much ground as it once did because it's been copied and inspired by a lot. It's been copied and has inspired a lot of work after.
Well, it's a very good point, isn't it?
An excellent point.
By a friend of the podcast guy.
Infinity Action Art.
That's his real name. Probably shouldn't have revealed that. What was I saying?
We're just saying it's an interesting point.
I don't know if he's read it.
I don't know if he's read it either. I think he's saying that it would have had a lot more shock value had he read it when it came out. Now, I'm going to side with him here because I read it having not really read that many comic books. I wasn't as well versed in comic books when I was 17 as I am now. Yeah, you didn't even know
who bloody the Blue Beetle was.
I didn't even know. So it did impact me quite a lot when I read it. I was like, "Ooh, this is a brand new. This is mature." It's a little bit like Ian McKellen, who used to run down the docks as a young man. You know, there's some grungy stuff going around. Quick tug here and there, you know. Tugboats. We're talking about tugboats, Michael, because that's what U.S. Marine ships use to get into tight ports. Yeah. But it was a watershed moment when it came out, most definitely. And it's been copied even by Alan Moore, who went on to do things like Top 10. Which is basically Watchmen if everyone had superpowers.
There's also the fact that so many comics now are deconstructions of the superhero genre.
Yeah, I mean, Image Comics makes its bread and butter of deconstructing the superhero genre.
More comics deconstruct the superhero genre now than just are the superhero genre.
It's because the superhero genre is a bit dead. I mean, you and I have talked about them multiple times in the podcast. Invincible is a good example of a deconstructed superhero genre. Black Hammer, which we read all the time here at the podcast.
Immortal Hulk is a deconstruction of the superhero genre.
Brand new style of deconstruction.
Everything's a deconstruction of the superhero genre now.
Just sitting here, Michael, the Authority is there, Planetary is there.
Basically, what Watchmen did was change the comic book industry from being a superhero industry to a deconstruction of the superhero industry.
In fact, now very often when we read something that is superhero friendly, we kind of write it off as twee and pointless if it doesn't have some kind of shocking
what's the deconstruction
twist. Yeah, what's the angle?
Where's the deconstruction?
Where's the deconstruction at? And then from that cynical viewpoint, Michael, we had another comment from frequent contributor to the podcast, Nine Wassies, who said, Stone Cold classic, dated, but isn't everything during the Cold War. Yeah, exactly. Having never loved superheroes and deconstruction of them, is more interesting than anything else ever tried. Gibson's panels are just crammed with so much detail, as is Moore's story, that it stands up against any of the 80s novels about the state of the US. It was never meant for everyone. not even for the non-comic readers who jumped on the bandwagon and coined the phrase graphic novel.
Yeah.
Ooh, topical. It didn't make comics respectable, but it opened up the mainstream wing of the industry to experimentation. I doubt a Marvel editor would allow something like the immoral... he misspelled here, which I quite enjoy. The immoral Hulk. I assume he means the immortal Hulk.
He'll cheat on his wife.
Bloody immoral Hulk.
Yeah.
Oh, such a finger wagging that he gets now and then from General Ross. Oh, Banner.
You
Cheeky
bad bloke.
nihilistic scamp. To exist without the excess of Watchmen. He says, I'll stop now. But Nine Wassies, don't stop. That was a great look and defense of the comic as a thing.
I think it's a very good comic, Ben.
Well, it just coincides with exactly what you thought yourself, Michael. Nine Wassies comment echoes your own thoughts there.
It does echo a lot of my thoughts, Ben. I do kind of agree with most of what Nine Wassies has said there, and I do know Nine Wassies' real name, but I'm not going to say it.
It's held up very well, Michael. I gave it a flick before we gave it a read again. Centrally speaking, as you said, a Nixon-esque hellscape has taken place. It could just as easily have been a Reagan-esque hellscape.
Well, was Reagan a liberal or a conservative?
He was a Republican.
Was he?
He's a Republican.
Which one's that?
Conservative. The term Reaganomics comes from him, Michael.
Reaganomics definition: make those companies go loco.
Yeah, pretty much. And he was kind of the man responsible for murdering the lower classes in America.
That's your opinion, Ben. Anyway,
no, that's history's and economics
speaking
opinion.
of whether things have held up or not, Ben, I watched, apropos of this, the 2009 film Watchmen.
Should we explain the basic plot for people who haven't read Watchmen? Surely anyone who's listening to this episode probably knows Watchmen.
Okay, Ben, run us through the very basic plot.
So the bare bones plot is we exist in a disenchanted world.
No, we've already done that.
Where superheroes are running out of things.
The setting.
And what we do is we pick up with a couple of characters who
are good.
Building their new identities post-vigilanteism. Two of the ones you've mentioned earlier are Night Owl and Silk Spectre. Version 2. Her nipples on that action figure are very prominent, Michael.
They are. Silk Spectre, not Silk Spectre.
Silk Spectre, sorry. Silk Spectre has a whole new level of meaning to it. Silk Spectre.
Silken Floss is the character you're thinking of. She's from she was Scarlett Johansson in The Spirit.
The Spirit, awful film.
No good.
No good. Anyway, those particular characters are kind of catching up here now and then. It turns out that his mentor, the Night Owl's mentor, has been murdered, the original Night Owl.
I think you got this a bit backwards.
Have I got it backwards?
Yeah.
Okay, you go.
Well, the comedian is killed.
The comedian is... Oh, yeah.
That's what starts the plot. The character called the comedian... Well, a man is killed, and we find out that he was a masked superhero, Ben, and whoever killed him must have been very skilled.
Very.
And perhaps they killed him because they were trying to get revenge on all of the former vigilantes.
Yes, it's originally thought to be a conspiracy against vigilantes.
Who are now outlawed.
Yes.
So one character, Rorschach, who's a mentalist...
Screw loose.
He's got a screw loose.
He would probably type libtard on a computer had computers been around.
Did I ever tell you the story of how our friend Jim dressed up as Rorschach one Halloween?
Oh, lovely.
And frightened the hell out of everyone.
Oh, it's a spooky costume.
He did. Well, we made it the day before Halloween.
Did he do full Rorschach? Like, did he?
Went
talk like this.
He talked like that. We were in a bar and he saw people dressed up in Halloween costume versions of Batman and all of his villains, and he went over. And Jim isn't the tallest man in the world, so I mean, a very good choice for Rorschach.
Physically imposing,
because Rorschach is supposed to be about 5'6".
He's weedy,
and I wouldn't say that Jim. He'll rip your arms off.
Not Jim.
So Jim went up and he tapped the Batman on his shoulder, and Batman turned around, and Jim said to him, "A real vigilante doesn't associate with criminals."
Nice.
And the Batman guy just looked at him like, "What?" He's like, "You're a disgrace." And then he walked off.
Oh, God, that poor Batman.
Yeah, it was very
scarred.
Funny. It was very good.
Scarred
so anyway,
life.
Ben, Rorschach investigates this murder, and it turns out that it's a much deeper conspiracy
dun, dun, dun.
Involving the Watchmen, a group of retired costumed heroes.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of... the deconstruction starts there. We see a Bruce Wayne, Tony Stark kind of parallel in Adrian Veidt.
Mm-hmm.
And he has become a billionaire. He's basically just used his super intelligence and Olympian physique to make the world a better place. Yeah, become the world's richest man and do that kind of thing. And then we see the traditional vigilantes in Silk Spectre and Night Owl and kind of what they've gotten up to after all that.
A sexy time.
Dr. Manhattan, the world's only superpowered being, has completely disrupted the economy, ruined everything. Very political figure.
Big blue dong.
Taken place in the Vietnam War. The comedian worked alongside him in the Vietnam War. The comedian went from being kind of a violent vigilante to a bit of a Punisher type character, I suppose.
A government spook.
To a government wet works agent that does the dirty jobs that nobody wants to do.
He's the one who killed Kennedy.
Yeah, he's a very dangerous man. Very dangerous man. A lot of people still fear the comedian and what he might do.
So who managed to beat him up and throw him out the window?
And that's the big question, because he used to be the big bad. He was the big bad wolf that came to your door and you'd be like, oh, tits.
So Zachary Schneider, Ben, released a film in 2009.
Bloody Zack Schneider.
To much excitement and anticipation.
One of the first big superhero films, I guess.
One of the first of... I mean... this is 2009, so it's around the time of Iron Man.
And the special effect, it's before Iron Man.
Iron Man was 2008.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Wasn't it?
Never mind, you're absolutely right. I'm thinking of Avengers.
Yeah, it was around the time of Iron Man. But it feels to me like it was longer ago than Iron Man for whatever reason. It does feel pre-Iron Man.
It was such a big endeavour as well in terms of CGI. And
that's the thing. And also the fact that really the Marvel Cinematic Universe style of superhero movie storytelling hadn't solidified yet. I think it was... this was only after Iron Man and possibly The Incredible Hulk.
Oh, God.
So they were the only two that had come out. And then this came out. And this was a huge movie. Not a massive financial success. Made about 200 million, I think, at the box office. I think it was a borderline a financial failure. And a critical, real division critically. The general public didn't really like it.
It's too meta.
Too meta, too long. People said too confusing. Having probably the greatest end to a sex scene in cinematic history.
Yeah, well, where floating flamethrowers, Leonard Cohen, are a win.
Was that Leonard Cohen? No, it's Hallelujah.
Yeah, it's the Leonard Cohen song.
Is that the Leonard Cohen version?
Yeah.
Is it?
It is, unless they used the Rufus Wainwright version.
I don't know which version they used.
But it's a Leonard Cohen song, anyway.
So, yeah, it's an odd film. Ben downloaded it legally this week for
we want some high quality
to watch it in high quality, and I accidentally downloaded the extended director's cut.
You poor man.
This is what we're talking about, the Snyder cut. 3 hours and 40 minutes, including Ben. All of the not including the extended material behind the scenes with the Minutemen.
Yeah, right.
I didn't watch that. I didn't bloody have time.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know a podcast is not a visual medium, but if you could watch a man unravel...
It's very long. But I think, Ben, it is a seminal superhero film.
Great film.
It is a great film. It's an incredible adaptation of the material. There are some changes. I don't think that the Rorschach hating homosexuals was... Well, he never says I hate. I don't think it was in the comic. I don't remember.
I don't know. That tone is not established in the comic.
But he definitely doesn't like liberals.
Bloody lip-tards.
Yeah, Rorschach would do great today.
He would have his own podcast. He would be an InfoWars style guy.
It would be amazing. The costumes are changed, obviously.
Yes.
You can say what you like about Zack Snyder, Ben.
Look, I don't really have an opinion one way or the other.
Right, but... he does design a good costume.
He's good at costumes.
The Night Owl costume is excellent.
Very realistic.
Very realistic.
But not too realistic that it takes you out of it.
No, it's a great costume. It looks fantastic. Yeah. All of the costumes look great. Rorschach's looks suitably homemade.
Rorschach-y.
Yeah, looks suitably homemade and grimy and gross. Night Owl's looks suitably like a Batman of that universe.
Yeah.
Silk Spectre's looks suitably like it was designed by her mother to make her sexy.
Which is just...
but it is weird. But that's the relationship she has. Her mother is weird.
Yeah, her mother is a bit of a chancer.
Yeah, it's a weird one. The costumes are great. The character designs are great. All of the acting is good, except arguably Malin Ackerman, who I don't...
Which one is Malin Ackerman?
Malin Ackerman is Silk Spectre.
Yeah, she's not great.
I don't rate her as an actress, to be honest. I think...
But Jeffrey Dean Morgan... What a great turn for him. All the actors there were relatively unknown.
No stars.
That time. No stars. No big stars. Names.
Patrick Wilson as arguably the lead. Hollywood's second leading man, Patrick Wilson. He's kind of a leading man now.
Always the leading running mate, never the leading man.
Exactly. He's always the best friend or the You know, the
or the
boyfriend.
villain. He's a good villain. He was in
Or the
Aquaman.
boyfriend.
For anyone wondering who he is, Patrick Wilson is Ocean Master Orm.
Orm, the Ocean Master. He's also in the Conjuring movies, isn't he? He's the lead.
Yeah,
in the
he's the
Conjuring
lead in all
movies.
the Conjuring movies.
And Insidious.
Yeah, no, they're
He's the
all.
dad
They're
in-
all the. Yeah,
No,
oh
he's
no,
the
they're
dad
not
in
joined. He's the dad
Insidious
in
and the
Insidious 1.
investigator in the
Yeah.
Conjuring or something
Yeah,
like that. So he's doing all right.
he's doing fine.
Malin Ackerman's doing fine as well. She's been in loads of stuff. Grown Ups. Was she in Grown Ups?
I don't know.
Yeah, she's in lots of stuff too.
But Jackie Earl Healy was in it as well.
Inspired
He's
casting
Rorschach.
as Rorschach.
Yeah, just nailed it. Like right across the board.
Billy
Terrifying.
Crudup is great with his
Billy
big blue
Crudup
schlong.
is a fantastic detached demigod.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the mask that Rorschach had. I think the special effects in that film were awfully good.
They're very good, and they hold up
And the
perfectly
mask was
in
great.
2019 as well,
Yeah.
which is 10 years down the line. Not every film from 10 years ago still looks good, but because it's so stylistic, because they've made such stylistic choices,
Yeah.
it holds up well.
Holds up very
And
well.
Ben, she leaves the boots on during the sex scene.
Which is all Michael's ever wanted in a sex scene. So, you know.
I watched the sex scene again this morning, Ben, and people said it was awkward. It is arguably too long and a little bit too lingering.
If you had a multi-million-dollar budget and we let you make a movie, there would probably be a sex scene with boots on.
I probably would. Look, let's
Several.
be honest. So anyway, it's good. It's a good film. I think it holds up well. The ending, of course, is the great controversy.
The ending is a controversy for okay, so there's a couple of reasons that the ending is a controversy. Let's get into it, Michael.
All right, let's do a deep dive.
In the
17
comic book,
minutes.
and spoilers for a comic book that came out in the 1980s,
Mhm.
basically Adrian Veidt is revealed to be the big bad.
That's one of the flaws of the movie, is that he is so obviously the baddie.
Yeah, because he's just an evil-looking fuck.
Because it's Matthew Good and he's so evil looking.
He's just got an evil face.
Mhm.
Screams Aryan Brotherhood a lot of the time. It's real
Just
weird.
literally screams, Aryan Brotherhood!
It's really
Oh shit.
weird.
I screamed Aryan Brotherhood and lots of sound panels fell off the walls. That was weird.
Anyway, we're going to get the wrong listenership this
We
week.
really are.
Um,
I hope people realise that all of this was in reference to the bloody comic.
Anyway, it turns out he's the big bad.
Yeah.
And what he's trying to do is...
Or is he though? Is he the big good?
That's the thing. He's a utilitarian. He's really doing good of the many over the good of the few. And he's been orchestrating... What he wants is a mass event to unite the world against a common enemy.
And to stop the nuclear holocaust.
And the way he's done this in the comic is that he's created an alien.
Yeah,
A
fake
fake
alien.
alien
Yeah,
that he plans to teleport into the middle of New York City.
yeah,
And basically, it is a huge terrorist event
yeah.
that will lead to global panic. He's got 3 of them. Doesn't he? He's going to put them in 3 major cities. He's going to do New York, Moscow. I can't remember the 3rd city. Anyway, what he's done is he's poured time, effort, research into hiring the best artists, geneticists.
Geneticists, scientists,
in this
zookeepers.
huge libtard cook conspiracy.
Yeah.
And basically he pulls it off by the end of the movie. He gets away with it.
The book, the comic book.
In
graphic
the
novel.
comic book. And he transports these alien corpses into the 3 different cities. Now, they're dead on arrival, but the whole world is basically meant to unite under this and go, oh, well, we'll have to join together to fight this alien menace in case it ever comes
In
back.
case it comes back, we better not fight each other in case there's aliens.
Unfortunately,
Yeah,
while he thinks he's succeeded,
yeah.
bloody hasn't. Because Rorschach's gone and mailed his bloody journal to
A conspiracy theory newspaper, so we don't really know.
Oh, but
That's
Michael...
the good ambiguity
Oh,
of it.
but
Go
Michael,
on.
we do know, and we'll get to that in a few minutes.
How do we know? Oh,
Bloody doomsday clock, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. Anyway, in the movie, however, I guess Zack Snyder just thought that a giant alien corpse was a bit too far-fetched.
pardon me.
I
I don't know if he thought it was too far-fetched. I think he thought it would be neater to have the big threat come from the thing that people always thought was the big threat, Dr. Manhattan. I quite like...
I prefer the movie.
So do I.
I prefer the movie's
I'm
ending.
sorry.
It makes a lot more sense.
Internet. That's probably going to get us in more trouble than the things I said earlier when I was being Rorschach.
Oh, I don't think so. I think from a narrative point of view... Well, anyway, let me just give a quick synopsis of the movie version. In the movie version, Adrian Veidt builds a thing that mimics Dr. Manhattan's power.
And he tricks Dr. Manhattan by pretending it's for making unlimited free energy.
Yeah. And Dr. Manhattan steps in, he harnesses the energy, and he nukes, basically, using Dr. Manhattan's power signature, a couple of cities around the world. You're absolutely right. From a narrative point of view, considering the amount of fear that is built up against Dr. Manhattan, which is something that nobody understands, and he's a one-of-a-kind event. He can't be replicated. It's covered extensively in the comic. It makes a lot more sense from a narrative point of view to have him be the big bad.
Ties it up into a nice little bow.
Lovely little bow. It was a fear that a bunch of people already had, and it makes a lot of sense that he lost control and he disappears. And in fact, he takes the decision to follow Vight's plan.
Yeah.
He recognizes what Veidt has done as an essential thing for that world's survival.
So he's been drifting further and further away from humans, so he doesn't terribly care.
Doesn't actually give a feck.
Yeah. And then, Ben, to go back to what we were saying earlier, and I'm sorry to cut across you here, this is where the TV show is, this is what we were talking about earlier, the TV show is following on from the Squids.
So it's Squidsy people, huh?
It's Squidsy people, so it's not a sequel to the movie, it's a sequel to the comic book.
That's bizarre, isn't it?
Isn't it? But said now.
Interesting choice.
Which is funny, because there's already a sequel to the comic book.
Yeah, there is. Bloody, I see what you did there. I wish you hadn't done that to me with a pen. That's weird. Yeah, so basically, Michael, you I'm going to say pranced up to me on... Frolicked up to me Tuesday.
Was it Tuesday?
I'm going to say a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And you said, look, we're doing Watchmen. The new series is launched on HBO on Sunday. We won't be able to see it on time, but doesn't matter. It'll be timely to have this done.
Timely.
I'll take a look at the film.
Like timely
I'll
comics.
take a look at the comic. I'll take a look at the backstory. You read Doomsday Clock. And I went, fuck you.
Yeah, you said Doomsday Cock.
Doomsday Cock. That's what I want to call the episode, but I'm figuring
we're going to call it we're going to call this episode We Watches the Watchmen.
That's a very good name for this episode.
Because it's
on board.
Grammatically awful.
Subtitle Doomsday Cock. And so I went and read it, Michael, and comic book companies, Michael, if nothing else, are money-grubbing whores, to coin a phrase. And DC wasn't doing that well. Vertigo was struggling at a certain point in 2017. And so what they do, Michael, why don't we rehash a classic? Why don't we stomp on somebody's grave and really disrupt everything great about that comic and bring it back? And they did that, Michael. One of the interesting things, Michael, it was launched in 2017 with a stellar cast attached. We had Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. Gary Frank is a phenomenal comic book artist, Michael, from top to bottom. In terms of anatomy, scale, visual storytelling, phenomenal piece of work. Jeff Johns is probably DC's answer to Michael Bendis before Michael Bendis jumped ship
to DC.
To DC. And so they were given this 12-part miniseries where they were going to integrate the world of Watchmen into the new DC rebirth. Yeah. Now, one of the interesting things that happened, Michael, is it was supposed to be a 12-issue miniseries. Launched in 2017 on a monthly scale, Michael. That means that
1 year.
We will, of course, have read the entire thing by December of the following year.
Which has passed.
But, Michael,
yes, Ben?
To date, on this podcast, which is the 20th of August...
20th of October.
20th of October, 2019, that bloody series still hasn't wrapped up,
It wrapped up.
It has been plagued.
Yeah.
Plagued.
By locusts
and poor handling. And it still hasn't wrapped up. But what happens is, Michael, we go back into the world of the Watchmen. And it's fucking messy.
What's going on?
It turns out that Rorschach's journal did get into the press and was taken seriously.
Rorschach's journal.
And so all Veidt's hard work has meant nothing.
Oh, God damn it, Rorschach, you son of a bitch.
So Veidt's solution to this is to find Dr. Manhattan.
Right.
And ask him to come back and balance the scale again. Because he's the only nuclear deterrent that exists. But there's been a bloody nuclear holocaust in the wake of Dr. Manhattan's leaving. And so he resolves to go find this. And one of the interesting things, Michael, is one of the first characters we're introduced to is Rorschach. But wait, Michael.
He got evaporated.
Or vaporized, if you want to use the correct
evaporated.
term.
Yeah, evaporated. He was
at the end of the other one. But it turns out that this new Rorschach...
Sublimated, I think, is the actual correct word.
...is the son of the original psychiatrist who attempts to deconstruct Rorschach in the original 1980s comic. He comes face to face with Nathaniel, and I'm not going to remember his second name, which is bad podcasting on my part. Rorschach gets arrested,
right?
And the psychologist in that prison decides to make Rorschach kind of his award-winning case, his new case study, into the criminal psyche and things like that. dies horribly.
Oh, good.
As a result of that, gets his mind broken by Rorschach. You'll remember in a very searing bunch of panels.
Yeah.
His son, Reggie, takes up the mantle of Rorschach
Reggie
in
Rorschach.
response to that. And becomes the new Rorschach. Veidt recruits him because he seems to have the same kind of keen intellectual prowess to crack cases that the original Rorschach had. So he uses him to track down two criminals that we never got an introduction to in the first.
Human being juice.
They are the Marionette and the Mime. Marionette and the Mime. And they're kind of like a Bonnie and Clyde in a Joker style
Joker and
element. Marionette is a mute. He doesn't talk. And Mime is... I could be mixing those two up. But Mime is his Bonnie. She uses kind of an invisible garrote wire to slice up people. And he has an invisible gun and knives that he can kind of manifest. Now...
Oh, they have superpowers?
No. It's done through nanotechnology.
Nanotechnology is superpowers.
Anyway, they have these little things in their palms that they can activate and use.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, we follow them, and there's a big mystery with the female one of these two because they once came up against Dr. Manhattan, and Dr. Manhattan didn't vaporize them like he did most criminals that he came across. And the reason for that is, we find out a little bit later, the reason for that is he saw that the Marionette, or the girl version of this duo, was pregnant.
Oh.
And because Dr. Manhattan exists in all timelines at all times,
yes,
and that's really important,
yeah,
Dr. Manhattan cannot time travel.
No,
he exists simultaneously in all timelines at all moments.
Yeah.
So he is effectively omnipresent, if not omnipotent.
No.
Which one is it?
Neither.
What is he? Omni what?
Nothing. He's omni nothing. He's categorically not omnipresent because he just exists throughout time. He doesn't exist throughout all space.
Okay.
Like if something happens somewhere that he's not, he doesn't know that it's happened.
But basically what we
Unless he finds out later.
Over the course of these issues, and it's major spoilers now for all these issues of Doomsday Cock, is that he sees that baby will be born.
Yes.
The two of them will either be murdered or arrested.
Right.
The baby will be taken away from them, and that baby will be adopted by none other than Night Owl and Silk Spectre.
Get out of here.
And it will give them a happy life. So he decides to spare her because he's seen that timeline work out.
Isn't that good?
Now, unfortunately, the nuclear holocaust happens, and it turns out that those two might be dead as dodos.
Oh.
They just got wiped out. But the big shock in this is...
They get turned into skeletons like in that famous
Almost famously, which you can check out on the Instagram. I used it this week for our design inspiration. The big twist is that the comedian survived.
What?
The comedian is brought back in Doomsday Cock.
Mucho no me gusta.
And it turns out that Dr. Manhattan decided to save him. He saw it happen, transported him into the water, and he ends up in the new DC universe because when Dr. Manhattan goes off on his little romp around the universe, he goes to explore the multiverse at the end of the original Watchmen. He finds his way to the DC New 52 continuity. One of the really interesting things here, Michael, is it's taken so long to readjust or to write this comic that the New 52 and the Rebirth saga has been scrapped. And we've rebooted all over again. So it's very messy, Michael. So the comedian's back and he's tracking down the different elements of the Watchmen universe that have found their way into...
The Button.
The Button, yeah, exactly. Marionette and Maquette meet the Joker. Look, Michael, it's actually very well written. This is the most annoying thing. It's a great comic if it didn't trample on the grave of Watchmen. It's actually, if they had chosen any other alternate universe with an omnipotent god, I would have been on board. Because the Marionette and the Mime are actually a great little addition. They're fun characters to watch interact with the world and stuff like that. But it tramples on the grave of one of the comic book greats, Michael. Doomsday Cock indeed.
Don't bring people back.
Yeah, so the bloody comedian comes back.
Don't like it.
And nobody else does. We don't get to see any. Well, maybe someone else will come back. Oh, Veidt is pulling strings and he meets Lex Luthor.
He's good.
Oh, this kind of things. But it's just shoehorning stuff in, Michael. Batman is a key figure because Batman makes sales.
Ben, have you seen the trailers for the Watchmen, the new series?
Yeah.
There's a nun.
Yeah.
There's a fellow with a shiny metal head.
Kind of a sexy nun.
A little bit sexy.
Sexy-esque.
There's a man with a shiny head like C-3PO.
Yes, he seems to be some kind of Rorschach, a Rorschach adjacent interrogator of some kind.
Then there's the police all wear masks.
They all seem to wear Rorschach masks.
No, just
they
yellow
wear
masks.
the hood.
Yeah, yellow
And
masks.
then other people wear Rorschach masks.
Yeah.
The
They're gonna fight back
conspiracy, the
against them.
anti-conspiracy. I suppose the InfoWars listening demographic.
Or like that eviction on Parnell Square or Mountjoy Square a few years ago.
Yeah, that was dodgy. I covered that this week in our job. And yeah, so the police seem to have they seem to be stepping outside the law a little bit to met out some justice, Michael. There's the nun lady who seems to be a tolerated superhero.
It looks like superheroes are back on the menu.
But they need to be state sanctioned perhaps or supported in some
like
way.
Civil War.
It looks like they might be brought in to do some dirty work now and then. Like if you were to bring in a bunch of lads in balaclavas and have them out of the back of a van in an untaxed northern reg plate. And then have protected by the police.
Oh.
So yeah, if you or anyone you know was affected by the Occupy Frederick Street. No, we're just kidding. Ladies and gentlemen, are you excited about the new Watchmen series? Are you going to watch it? Are you going to watch The Watchmen?
We Watches the Watchmen.
We Watches the Watchmen. Oh yeah. How do you feel about the bloody comedian being brought back from the dead? I don't like it. It's no good.
Who do you think would win a fight between Night Owl and the Marvel Comics character, the Juggernaut?
Probably Night Owl. Seems to be all you have to do is get the helmet off. Do you think that the sex scene in the Watchmen movie was a bit awkward and too long? I did, because I watched it in the cinema with my papa.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Don't watch it with your dad.
Don't watch it with your dad. Just tell us what you think, guys. We had a couple of opinions there. Were they interesting? Are you interested in seeing more continuation of the Watchmen universe, or should we just leave it be?
Just leave it be.
Should we just leave it be?
I'm looking forward to the series, Ben. I have to say, I am.
Jeremy Irons looks like he's going to knock it out of the park as a weird kind of Jeremy Irons-esque character.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the series. I have to admit, Ben. I am.
Look, we're going to give it a watch because it's Damon Lindelof.
Yeah,
he did the bloody Leftovers. It was bloody good. That's it from us this week, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to give us some suggestions, I am going on my Hollybops quite soon, and we need to do quite a few episodes in a go. So really, if there's anything you'd like to hear covered on the podcast, give us an topic.
Next week we'll do a spooky Halloween topic.
Special spooky, scary Skellington Halloween topic. Let us know if there's anything you'd like to hear covered in the podcast. We'd love to know. You can get in touch with us at seomrabeag.com, seomrabeag.com.
Means tiny room in Irish.
We're on Instagram. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We could use an L review on Apple Podcasts if you wanted to shove it up. If you enjoy an L tug with Ian McKellen, give us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. That does us a favour as well. And as always, keep tuned. If you're interested in some more literary kind of things, friend of the podcast Shane has recently written us an essay. Throw your eyeballs over that on seomrabeag.com.
There's a new section, Courtney is in session.
And if you'd like anything to be done, Courtney is in session is a great way to find out. If you want a humorous take with a bit of substance, chuck it on over to Shane. That's it from us for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Bye.
Bye. Also check out Collecting Issues, our comic book club. www.collectingissues.com.